Yes, we need to take a quick look at what's happening on the covers of the dailies this morning.
By the
And
way, just for that, Danny, did you cut off some cloth from your top?
well, we have quite a lot to talk about when it comes to the headlines in the dailies this morning. Let's see what we have on the cover of the Daily Trust. We're going to be starting with this newspaper at this point, and it says here, federal government to end polio in December. It says virus has declined in Nigeria by 84%. Bill Gates reiterates $7 billion aid. Concrete decisions needed, according to Dangote, and according to governors, will support all initiatives for healthy population.
Man, see, this issue of polio eradication is, whenever I think about it, for a very long time, for about last 6, 7 to 8 years, it's been, it's very sad. I would say it's very, very sad in the sense that, look, do you know, Titi, there are only 3 countries in the world that polio is endemic, that have polio.
Only 3 now.
Only 3. And that's been so for years. And if you hear the other 2 countries, you will not be happy that we are in that same bracket.
Yeah.
Afghanistan and Pakistan.
Wow.
And Nigeria are the only 3 countries in the world that have polio endemic. And it is, I'm talking about 84% by this time. At a particular point, some years back, we were declared polio free.
Yeah.
Where did it come from? How did it come back? First of all, that declaration,
was it after sure? Was it affirmed?
Yes. Was it after due checks and balances? That's number 1. But then that's come back, and we're talking about 84% by this thing. We really should have gone past this. I don't want to say hopefully.
Yeah.
I mean, the vaccines and all of that being done, we should really clean up house.
Yeah.
And clean up house. I don't want to hear that. I mean, for a very long time.
I've been hearing it. I rember hearing it in childhood. Kick polio out of Africa. I remember even. So that was
that as a child. Yeah. That was around 96. That was a Nelson Mandela initiative. That started from South Africa with Nelson Mandela. He really said, okay, across the African continent, and Africa as a continent was one of the first continents that they said they declared it free. Yeah. You know, there was a fight. That campaign you're talking about. Sure. 96 period and all of that. Nelson Mandela pushed that campaign, kick polio out and all of that. But you see, we really do have to do more. It's shameful that we should be talking about this now.
The next paper we have here is The Punch. It says here, DMO worries over low revenue as Nigeria's debt nears 81 trillion. Federal government's 10 trillion naira revenue can't support fresh borrowing. It says here, government to issue promissory note as judgment debt nears 3 trillion.
Yeah, and a lot of people have pointed to this particular thing when the issues of serving officials raising the salary by 114%, which, of course, Dele Alake has come out to say that it is not being approved. But as much as I said it's not being approved and all that, the point is that as an economy, we cannot, there are a lot of things that we cannot, at this particular point, sustain. That is one of them. Yeah. Our debt, we really, I mean, taking off subsidy really does help.
It does.
A big way. Yeah. It takes off a lot. The government will not have to think of borrowing for all of that.
Yeah.
But you see, the president now is somebody who, at different points in time, is known to be an economic juggernaut. We've seen the market has been quite bearish since he came in. You know that. Sure. You understand? He's in France now. We read about him winning investors and all of that. And so there is that outlook that economically we can do better than how we were, you know, recently. So let's look forward to that. Look at the economic blueprints that is being put together, and hopefully we get through this phase and move on and start moving up.
So, you know, yes, you just mentioned that the president is presently in Paris for the Paris summit. And you said wooing investors. The subsidy removal FX policy needed for survival. That's what he says.
And that brings us to the issue of the floating naira, or as in having the market, you know, a unified rate. There's nowhere you hear this kind of thing apart from here, where we had 2 different rates. We had the black market rate, and then we had the official rate and all of that. So that was the first. This is something that should have been done a very long time ago.
Yeah.
As a first step, you have a unified rate. Yes, it's really fluctuating quite a lot because it so happens that whenever something is at its inception stage, you would expect seeding problems. You understand? We are at that particular stage where we're just starting, so those feeding problems will be there. But after this particular period, once we have a unified rate, then we can work towards strengthening the naira and all of that, as it were. I mean, it's very simple. Import, export. I mean, when you give value, it goes up. So it's just simple, very, very simple. We focus more on giving value. We focus more on taking stuff out rather than bringing stuff in. And come on, the value of our currency would definitely go up.
We have the Guardian newspaper with us as well, and it says here, flood of fury, no respite for Bayelsa, Kogi rivers, 30 others ahead of another cloud burst. Now, it is the big story on pages 4 and 5. Some troubling looking photos
very, very
there.
troubling. Remember last year we spoke about it. This year, of course, meteorological reports gave it that this year rainfall was going to be much more than it was last year. I don't have the exact this in my head now, but we know that it's been a problem. Like, what from last year up until this point in time, I know that it was a new dispensation, but what have people done? What are the few things people have done, especially as much as we do have a role to play? That's talking about the public do have a role to play. But in cases of this kind of, especially when, erosion and all of that, in cases of this large thing, it's more, responsibility lies more on government. If you are going to put up a policy and then you tell people to move out from an area, then you're going to have to enforce that policy because, look, they will not want to do it. I mean, I've seen communities where people are basically living inside the water.
Yeah.
You understand? So
but then again, there are
policies
also...
will have to make people either move out from those regions because it's going to happen.
Yes,
especially
but there are some places where... Some countries where they live on water, like they've built.
We don't have the infrastructure.
Yes,
that's
what
talking about bamboo that the water is taking off. I mean, it will rot now. I've seen. I mean, when you go to those countries and all of that with their beautifully made rafts and all of that, Vienna and all of that, Venice, pardon me, and all of that. When you're going through and all of that, you see that there's an infrastructure. It is well planned. Yeah. There is concrete. There is.
But it also took hundreds of years to build infrastructure.
And the only way, and see, my point is this: we don't have some kind of infrastructure for now. Get people to move away from the areas that are flood prone.
True.
It is policy that's going to make that happen. For now, if the administration doesn't do anything, I mean, to control the flood, then get people out from there. So that we don't hear stories of people losing lives and all of that. And then people also pay your head, like that incident we mentioned about in Agege. How can you see water going in there and you are still going? You are David Abi?
Wow.
It was sad, but that is entirely avoidable. You see the water, you see it's raging, and you know that you're on a three-wheeler and you are going inside. Come on.
We're going to move on to the next newspaper at this point. We have the blueprint here. It says, with oil subsidy removal, we're ready for business. Investors, which is similar to some of the stories we've already read earlier today, say we need reforms for national survival. Concerns over primary healthcare financing will be addressed, according to Shetima. And also it says here, Tinubu sets up committee to wade into 4.2 trillion 2.1 trillion NMPCL FAC RAW. It also says here, Mogalu backs Tinubu's FX policies, says stronger naira will discourage exports, and anxiety in Senate as Wike lobbies Akpabio over minority positions.
Okay. The major headline, of course, there is the same thing we've been talking about in different ones, oil subsidy removal and how much it's needed to stimulate economic growth and all of that. So look, where it has happened, we're looking forward to, as soon as possible, the measures, or we see the results of this particular sacrifice that everybody has to make. So that one, we've spoken about it at different times over and over again. We know that one.
I was actually going to mention, how important it is for conversations to be had in different countries all over the world on how new business can be brought into the country. You mentioned the strengthening of the naira. A lot of people still complaining, it looks like the dollar keeps going up. Some were even fearing it was going to go over 800 naira as at sometime earlier this week. But a lot of people don't realize that the only thing that can truly strengthen the naira is the actual economy. How much are we exporting? How much are we manufacturing?
Simple. That, you just said the word. Export versus import. Export more, give value more. Your currency will rise. It's as simple as that. Simple. I just want to mention, just in passing, unmetered consumers increase as discos customers hit 11.27 million Q1. We've seen a little bit of a spike when it comes to electricity generation.
Sure.
I know, we know there's been talk about states having to generate their own electricity, which I think would help the matter. But then unmetered consumers is a major problem.
And that has been a big issue for a long time.
Unmetered consumers, I mean, people that are consuming electricity and they are not paying for it. If we had time, we'll talk about it, but some other time, of course, we'll talk about power generation and electricity.
At this point, we would love to hear your thoughts, hear your comments. Use our hashtag WakeUpNigeria on TVC. Let's hear what you think. We can't wait to see them. We're going to be taking a quick break, but there's still so much more on Wake Up Nigeria.